According to renowned German philosopher Frederic Nietzsche, it's easier to cope with a bad conscience than with a bad reputation. And in an age where reputations could be built or destroyed with a simple click of a mouse or a single tweet, knowing and understanding what consumers are saying about you could make or break your business. And this is where online reputation management comes in. Joining me in studio today to give us some more insight into the world of online reputation management is Tim Shier, Managing Director at BrandsEye. Tim, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, in an era of enhanced connectivity, the advent of blogs, consumer sites and social media, how important has the concept of online reputation management become?
Well, in short, a lot. We're seeing a completely different way that people are communicating and more importantly, a different way that people are defining and getting truth about businesses. You know, in the old way of doing things, it used to be very much that the brand could set the agenda, they could set the truth because they controlled the medium. What we've got now is quite a different model where consumers are asking their friends, asking their peers, they're going to Google, they're going to social media to find out the truth about the brand. And it means that communication needs to take place quite differently.
Who's your typical ORM customer? Is it big business? Is it celebrities? Is it government? Who comes to you to say, please watch what's going on and make sure that the more positive messages are sitting at the top?
Well, interesting one actually. So big businesses tend to be the sorts of clients that stay with us on a retainer basis, whereas government tend to come to us when things go wrong. We also have a lot of small businesses that are starting up and saying, you know, it's an opportunity for them to build a relationship with their customer when their customer base is very small and their investment is very low. So we're seeing it across the entire spectrum, but by and large, the majority of them are coming as sort of blue chip clients. A lot of telecommunications, a lot of banking, a lot of hospitality.
Now, ORM has gained a lot of traction over the past few years, but what does the traditional ORM model look like?
Okay, so ORM itself consists essentially of 4 different parts, well, certainly as we see it. So the first part of it is saying, how do we find the information that's taking place online? So it's a case of monitoring what people are saying on Facebook, on Twitter, on blogs, on forums, on company websites, and anywhere else on the public domain. The second step is around how do we then measure that? So what are the key KPIs that we can pull out to gain particular insights into particular areas of the market? So what is the market sentiment towards the brand? How credible are the consumers? Which are the consumers that are talking about it? Which websites are talking about you, and using that information to gauge what campaigns are successful, which campaigns are unsuccessful, etc. And using that to define what business decisions to take in future. The third, which typically sits with the agency or with the client, is saying, now that we've identified how the brand's performing, let's come up with a management strategy to actually deal with it and to drive the brand in a particular direction. So how do we match the KPIs that we've got with the business strategy that we're trying to achieve, and how do we bridge that gap? And the final one we call maximization, but it's around looking at the data and using it to provide traditional market research and ask particular questions of the data and use that to then drive high-level business decisions as well as improve social media marketing and communication activities through the line.
Now, that's the traditional model, but your company is taking it a step further by using crowdsourcing as part of the process. How does that work? Okay,
so what we've done with bringing in the BrandsEye crowd is we've essentially increased the accuracy across all 4 of those quadrants. So we're saying, let us use people like you and I to go through the data and say, is it positive, is it negative? How positive, how negative is it? What country is it from, what language is it in? Is it a consumer, is it a journalist, is it press? Because obviously each of them infer different sort of insights towards the business. So what we've done is we're using the BrandsEye crowd to drive massively high accuracy. At the moment we're getting, an audit done by Fleischmann Hillard gave about a 94% accuracy on what we're currently doing. We think we can get it to about 95, potentially even 100. But what it means is that we're sitting at between 25, sometimes 30% better than the rest of the average in terms of what the industry is getting. And it means that we've got insights that you can actually use to drive business decisions rather than insights which are nice to know, but not particularly useful because of the inaccuracy built into it.
But I have to ask the question about the accuracy factor. Because we have, crowdsourcing, social media platforms, blogs, people can basically say anything at any time. How do you disseminate between vendettas and actual honest feedback?
Well, this is exactly where the crowd comes in. So when a piece of data comes in, a tweet or a blog post, we pass it through to our crowd, and our crowd then look at it and go, from my point of view, given that I've got local context, local understanding of slang, jargon, etc., let us review it and then let us make that decision.
So it's a peer review process,
basically. It is, absolutely. Yeah. So a piece of data comes in, it gets shared between 2 particular people. If they agree, then it's considered correct. If they disagree, there's various mechanisms that drive the accuracy. And then they obviously get paid off the back of that. So for every piece of accurate data that they give us, they get paid on a scale based on how accurate they are. So we're driving a very particular behavior, which is around passing high volumes of data very quickly through the system at a very, very high accuracy.
Let's look at the technology behind the crowdsourcing model. I read somewhere that this specific solution makes use of an algorithm based on the ELO rating system, which was developed to rank chess masters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this what it's all about, innovation?
Critically, it's about innovation, because we're sitting in a place where the ORM industry has said we can get 70% accuracy through automated mechanisms. And we're saying, actually 70% isn't good enough for us to be able to pull the sort of quality insight that we want off the back. You know, it's rubbish in, rubbish out.
Because clients are paying for accuracy.
Yes, absolutely. So, you know, the current model is, and the market's been very accepting of a 70% accuracy or 65% accuracy. And we're saying, actually, you know what, we're not willing to do that. So let's find a mechanism and a means of driving that sort of accuracy. In terms of the ELO ranking, which is the ranking you talk about, we use that to draw or to shape how our crowd is distributed on a particular curve. And we use that to then work out who are the most influential and who are the most trustworthy people within our crowd, and they then peer review more junior people's work. So whenever they're challenged on a particular thing, if they get it right, they climb in terms of the ELO ranking. If they get it wrong, they drop in the ELO ranking. So it means we can work out quite quickly who the poor performers are, and then we push them out of the system, as well as identify who the top performers are and provide them with various incentive bonuses to retain them.
Okay, Tim, before we run out of time, let's look at the future of ORM. You've been traveling quite extensively off air. You told me you just returned from Kenya. What does the ORM market look like in South Africa and Africa at the moment, and where is it going to? Very
interesting question, and a very exciting question, because in South Africa the market's developed to a fair degree. You know, the key businesses that are out there are very involved, and they're tracking it in a huge amount of detail. Up in the East African markets, I was in Kenya and Tanzania, it was quite different in many respects, because the market is a lot less sophisticated in terms of general marketing, general digital awareness. That said, they've got a huge digital population that are having very interesting, very frank conversations with the brands. Safaricom being a great example. People are upset about particular things, but they're having very strong and very legitimate conversations with the brand about the things they're unhappy with, and they're doing it in a very polite way. So from that perspective, there's a huge opportunity to do some really interesting work out there.
Well, we'll see what those opportunities are in future.
Yeah,
Tim Shier, MD of BrandsEye, thank you very much.
Thank you.